A woman's body was discovered in a controversial and questionable state in the middle of a quiet Ohio neighborhood, months after her sudden disappearance. Her distraught husband insisted she had simply gone missing, offering no explanation for the grim discovery that followed. But the evidence, the autopsy findings, the established timeline, and the husband's behavior paint a far darker picture than the naive account initially presented. A planned murder. As we peel back the final layer, one truth becomes clear. Cases like this don't fade because they're solved. They fade because someone wants them forgotten, and sometimes a killer walks free. Today we unravel a twisted narrative and the disturbing truth investigators nearly overlooked: the unsettling case of Emily Noble. Westerville, Ohio, once known as the dry capital of the world, with fewer than 45,000 residents, became the center of a chilling mystery. On May 25, 2020, 52-year-old Emily Noble vanished from her home. Just one day after celebrating her birthday. According to her husband, 60-year-old Matthew Moore, he awoke around 10 a.m. to find that Emily was simply gone. In a recorded 911 call, Matt claimed that Emily had left behind her phone, keys, purse, and even her ID, suggesting she had walked into the nearby woods without any of her belongings.
Her birth computer, her ID, her car too, her car keys, her phone too.
He described her disappearance as very uncharacteristic and abnormal, adding that someone had advised him to contact 911 hours after he discovered she was missing. When officers arrived, Matt appeared at the door at the same moment their neighbor, Celeste, reached the scene. Police searched the home and found everything meticulously clean. There was no illness, no dementia, no intoxication, and no sign of conflict. Nothing that indicated a reason for Emily to leave voluntarily. Her bed was neatly made, yet she had vanished. Inside the garage, her husband noticed that something had been moved and alerted the officers. A loop of rope that had been hanging on the wall wasn't in its place, insinuating something that was already too close to home.
Maybe at some point she took it and put it there for some weird reason, maybe, but I'm just telling you, this was not.
With no initial leads, police organized search parties, believing she might have gone for a walk and possibly wandered into the woods to gather wild vegetables, which she often did. However, the discovery made months later would force investigators to reconsider every word Matt Moore had ever said. If you're interested in in-depth true crime analysis, please consider subscribing and sharing this video. Your support helps us continue bringing important cases like this to light. An initial search by an officer revealed that another neighbor had seen her that morning, between 9 and 10 a.m. in the garage, greeting him with a simple hello. When the officer relayed this to Matt, he reacted with surprising cheerfulness, smiling, appearing confident, and expressing optimism that Emily would soon be found, raising his finger and saying, "Awesome."
Saw her, she was just standing there, he said hello, she said hello. This morning.
10 in the morning.
Yeah, around 9, 10 o'clock.
A reaction that seemed unusually casual for a worried spouse. Emily appeared to have been around, or so it seemed. The officer then narrowed her sudden disappearance to two possibilities. She had either left intentionally or been abducted. Within 24 hours, police began searching streets, parks, abandoned buildings, and wooded areas. Social media posts and missing person flyers yielded no new leads. Days later, in a puzzling development, the neighbor, John, revised his account, admitting he was uncertain whether he had seen Emily on the 24th or the 25th. No evidence, no victim. The case had returned to square one. Emily, a talkative and generous artist, endured unimaginable loss. Her first husband, Mark, died by suicide in 2011, followed shortly by the deaths of her parents. Years of grief weighed heavily on her until 2018, when she met Matthew Moore online and married him later that year. Matt's history carried its own shadows. He had a documented domestic violence case with his ex-wife in 2001, just 3 months into their marriage. He had also suffered a traumatic brain injury in a car accident, leading to unpredictable mood swings. He was possessive, unemployed, and irresponsible. Matt eventually decided to move from Las Vegas to be with Emily, and for a moment, the spark of life seemed to return for them both. From his first marriage, Matt had previously lost one of his children. His other child, Joey, moved in with Matt and Emily in Ohio in 2018. He was described as a kind young man who struggled with mental and behavioral challenges. Joey tragically took his own life by hanging in the garage in 2019 after feeling rejected by his father. As the investigation into Emily's disappearance deepened, police seized the couple's phones and firearms, and a $10,000 reward was announced for her safe return. Through it all, Matt's story remained unchanged, rigid, rehearsed, and increasingly unbelievable.
I think the nature of this disappearance is suspicious.
Nearly 4 months later, in September of 2020, an investigator made a horrifying discovery. Reviewing earlier body cam footage, they noticed Matt casually suggesting that, in the worst-case scenario, she did something to herself.
At the worst case scenario, maybe she did something to herself.
A random and oddly detached statement. Matt later failed a voluntary stress analysis test.
Do you know where Emily is?
No.
I'm gonna have you step out in the lobby. You can catch your breath. Do you want some more water?
Yeah, sure.
Sure.
Take my cup.
Then, a thread of messages between Emily and an individual named Amy revealed the deeply unstable state of her marriage. As questioning intensified, Matt became increasingly uneasy, eventually saying, "I need a lawyer."
I need a lawyer, I guess.
The tone shifted sharply when the investigator confronted him, insisting, "You killed her, and it was an accident." On September 16, 2020, 115 days after Emily's disappearance, officers received a call. The remains of a woman, initially listed as Jane Doe, had been found hanging upright from a tree in a dense, overgrown area. Shockingly, only a short walk from Emily's home. Despite Matt identifying this as her usual walking route, police had never conducted a thorough search of that exact area.
Right along that bridge is where she likes to go.
Detectives identified Noble through dental records. Due to heavy decomposition, they sent her remains for skeletal and strangulation analysis. Multiple fractures were detected on Noble's face and neck. His findings were very clear, said Westerville Police Lieutenant Justin Alloway regarding the strangulation expert. He said this was clearly a homicide based on the injuries that were sustained and the mechanism of those injuries. He also gave his opinion that her body was staged to appear as though it was suicide, and in his opinion, that was absolutely not the case. Emily's bones showed signs of blunt force trauma, injuries inconsistent with suicide according to the autopsy. The cord had been tied in a manner that experts testified would have been nearly impossible for a short, lightweight woman to do alone, especially given Matt's own description of her. "She's really small. She's like 100 pounds, probably 5'2". Emily's hyoid bone was fractured, a finding far more consistent with strangulation than suicide. Her facial bones also showed signs of impact. This was not the spontaneous action of a woman quietly walking into the night. This was violence, up close and personal. In June 2021, after pandemic-related delays, nearly a year after Emily's body was discovered, Matt Moore was arrested and charged with her murder. Officers surrounded him as he sat calmly in his car in front of Emily's condo that she had inherited from her mother. Prosecutors argued that he staged the scene to resemble a suicide, manipulating environmental elements to mimic a self-inflicted hanging. They also claimed he used a bottle of alcohol to manipulate the scene. 2 years later, in August 2022, Moore went to trial. Defense attorneys countered that investigators had limited forensic evidence, citing the lack of physical injuries on Matt's body, the absence of an established time of death, and no fibers or physical evidence linking him directly to the scene. They insisted Emily had taken her own life after years of personal struggles, with his attorney calling the prosecution's case pure speculation. However, the injuries around her neck and certain text messages suggested a different narrative. Prosecutors explained that Matt had slept in another room to create an opportunity, remaining awake throughout the night to follow Emily silently, like a predator. After months of investigation, conflicting evidence, and a courtroom divided by science and doubt, everything came down to a single decision. One verdict that would determine whether this was justice or a failure that would haunt the case forever. On August 26, 2022, after a 3-hour deliberation, the jury returned with its verdict. On the single count, the jury found the defendant, Matthew Moore, not guilty.
Matthew L. Moore, not guilty of murder as he stands charged in count 2 of the indictment.
Matt Moore walked free. To this day, Emily Noble's death remains officially undetermined, a case suspended between murder and suicide, evidence and ambiguity, truth and silence. For months, she had been just a short walk from home, and yet she was never found. The questions that matter most may never be answered, an unresolved tragedy buried beneath the dust of neglect. A case officially listed as homicide, yet no conviction. Because in the end, a jury's decision did not bring closure. It only sharpened the haunting truth. Somewhere between the evidence and the silence lies an answer that no courtroom has been able to reach. And until that truth is uncovered, Emily Noble's story will remain one of the unsolved mysteries in modern true crime. This was the case of Emily Noble, a story that, hopefully, will one day be illuminated and bring darkness to light. For more criminal cases, subscribe and share to help us continue this journey.